Well, for once, we come here to praise this season of Doctor Who, and not to bury it in a series of snide remarks. Must make for a refreshing change, Doctor. Oh, does it ever, Clara? The Crimson Horror was such a smorgasbord of delights that I almost don't know where to begin. I do. It was the sidelining of the sonic screwdriver by a wooden chair that was the moment of the episode. Ha, know what you mean. After a season where sonic abuse has been flagrant, Clara stepped forward and suggested that perhaps it wasn't a solution for all ills. Although I'm not quite sure how the sonic revived Doctor and Clara. Do you know what? Given that was the only magic wand moment of the whole story, I can actually forgive it. I just assumed it was reversing the polarity of the neutron flow on Mrs. Gillyflower's mannequin chambers. There was a real carry-on screaming vibe to the creation of mannequins from perfect people.
Oh yes, another nice 1970s reference there from writer Gatiss. And the image of the dead in the eye of the crimson ones. For some reason it made me think of the 1972 movie, The Asphyx. I'm not quite sure why, but the gothic horror that Gatiss does so well was just perfect in this episode.
Less perfect was the Doctor's northern accent, although given the way it was played in flashback, it did make me laugh. Oh, and it wasn't the only chuckling, it was actually a pretty dark episode. We had Thomas, King of Root Finders too, and obviously the wondrous Strax, who was actually unleashed for the first time in a frontal assault. The joy in his little potato face was a delight to behold. I also like the sparing use of Madame Vastra giving Jenny centre stage. Oh yes, indeed, and how I like that. Jenny's an engaging character, now probably more than Clara to be honest, and that outfit! Oh! Skin-tight leathers, I wonder if that was a homage to the main guest star, Dame Diana's Riggs, Days in the Avengers. Well, if it was, kudos to whoever thought of it, and if it wasn't, kudos to whoever thought of it. It certainly tickled my time-weasel fancy. Doctor, she's not, how shall I put this tactfully? Open to Mr. Weasel blandishments?
Excuse me? I didn't go through 300 years of Time Academy training to be called Mr. WHeasel. But yes, we can agree the Victorian trio investigators were a delight once again.
We should talk about Dame Diana Rigg too. I know you've been enjoying her as the Queen of Thorns in Game of Thrones. Oh yes, and yet as Mrs. Gillyflower in this story, she surpassed even that. A wonderful actress, perfectly cast, and a smashing performance. Her daughter Ada was also a delight too, with her my monster stuff in relation to the Doctor. You know, she was the real emotional heart of this story. And did you know she was Diana's real daughter? She is? Oh, well, that's a very nice touch there. In terms of nice touches, I also like the Doctor's throwaway reference to Tegan as the gobby Australian. Oh yes, and then a cherry was placed on the top with the use of Braveheart, Clara, too. Oh, it made my fanboy gland swell with delight at that. Oh, I do not think we need to know that, Doctor.
Ha ha! Too late! It's a fixed point of time. There's no way anyone will ever forget.
Yuck! What about Clara this week? I thought for the first time she didn't feel like Amy Light. I agree. She was a real companion. And with the reaction of Jenny encouraged you, Clara, I was for a little moment actually interested in finding out who or what she actually is. Okay then, Doctor. You liked the story, the cast, the set and the performances. Was there anything you didn't like? Well, I suppose if I'm going to be critical, and you usually are, indeed, I'd say Mr. Sweet looked like an escapee from Fingerbobs. Given the pretty incredible Victorian sets and costuming, having the villain look like a novelty condom was a bit of a letdown. Although the duality of Mrs. Gillyflower nurturing Mr. Sweet at her breast, while neglecting and abusing her daughter, was a nice narrative counterpoint.
Thankfully though, the time slot stopped to show short of the revealing Dame Diana's breasticles for all to see.
What about those last 2 minutes with those kids and Clara? Oh yeah, that for me, that was the slug in my salad, the fart in my lift, the razor blades in my toffee. We get the point, Doctor. You felt they spoiled the episode. Almost. It felt like the hand of Moffat had stuffed them in there as a teaser for next week. If we'd seen Clara's charges on and off this season, it might have been okay. But it was... no. They were a jarring change of focus and tone. Right, Well, with that, over to Thomas for the episode score.
The episode proceeded along for 40 minutes at high speed. It took a number of right turns in the plot and arrived at our destination on time. However, the diversion at the end should have been turned around if possible and avoided. Hence, it scores 9 miles to go.
Thanks, Thomas. Next week, John and Gillian join the time travelers as the show threatens to descend into the Sarah Jane adventures. They're called Artie and Angus, you know. Whatever. Can even Neil Gaiman and the Cybermen manage to overcome my antipathy towards kids of the TARDIS? My time senses say no.